Perfectionism weighs heavily on young adults and parents navigating life's pressures. Join me for the next 2 episodes as we hear from remarkable young adults about their own struggles and the powerful tools they've used to move forward. Welcome to Success Reimagined. I am Dr. Amna Shabir, your host on this journey to thrive at the intersection of ambition and wellness. In every episode, I'll help you challenge outdated definitions of success, discover practical tools and strategies for growth without compromising your well-being. I am so glad you've joined me. Let's reimagine what's possible together. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I have a very special guest on the show who's going to bring in his young energy with him. Caden Vittorini is the CEO and founder of Vitt Factor, a TEDx speaker, and a #1 bestselling author. Caden has been featured on Chicago WGN Morning News and is dedicated to empowering youth through one-on-one coaching, group workshops, and school assemblies. Welcome, Caden.
Thank you, Amna. I'm really excited for today and to share my mission for our youth.
Excellent. Caden, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey, your background, and what really led you to establish your company?
Yeah, starting with my why, I always say with every company, there's a why for why I got started. And I really saw the gap in our youth from COVID-19, the pandemic, and social isolation through technology, social media, and gaming. So that's my daily driver, why I do the one-on-one coaching, group workshops, and school assemblies, because there is a big gap there. And where myself, my team, coaches, future leaders, where we come in is we bridge that gap through communication skills. They don't know how to have a conversation. So we'll focus on, starting, expanding, ending, body language, how to build a friendship, but also the self-confidence, the motivation. They compare themselves to others. They don't know their values, and so many different topics that we focus on within our youth. So that's why I got started, was I saw that gap and I knew something had to be done about it.
When I heard your TEDx, it was wonderful. The
Thank
title
you.
of the TEDx is An Easy Guide to Having Better Conversations. Why did you decide to come up with that topic?
Because talking to parents, teachers, and even just what I'm personally seeing, that was the #1 skill that where there was a gap, was the communication side of things. From they don't have confidence in their ability to have a conversation. When they're in the conversation, they're nervous about what the other people are going to say. They don't know how to continue that friendship after the conversation. So in the TEDx, I talk about, some different stories, starting with the Johnny story, what he went through school, and then what the progress he saw at the end. So not going to spoil it, but definitely should check out the TEDx and see that story. But in the TEDx, I talk about the body language, first impressions, how to start, expand, and end a conversation, how to really connect and find those common interests and really build those friendships with what our youth is wanting to. All these kids want to make friends, but they don't know how to. So that's where, the topic came in from, because that's the #1 thing that I've seen from my own eyes, but also hearing it from parents and teachers, principals, and all of that stuff as well.
And so for the audience, I want to let you know that Caden works with age groups 8 to 18, and he's helping young adults, and we're starting tweens and teens and young adults learn how to communicate better, which is amazing. As a mom of 2 young girls, I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Shifting gears just a little bit, our theme is perfectionism that we're talking about today. So when I say the word perfectionism, what does it mean to you?
So to me, it means not making any mistakes, not failing. Everything's perfect. That's what I think it means. But I feel like a lot within our youth, they're always looking for perfectionism with getting straight A's, having the perfect friendships, when they get older, having the perfect job, perfect relationships, all these different things. They're always wanting perfect. But my biggest thing when I talk about and work on with our youth is it's okay to make mistakes, failures, things aren't going to go your way. So once they understand that, it's so important, because they're always looking for that perfectionism, but you have to realize that's not life. No one or nothing is perfect. So once you realize that, that's where you'll really be able to find that true happiness, that true confidence and motivation, is knowing that not every day is going to be perfect. You're going to have days where you don't want to do it. You have doubts. You have to make sacrifices, but understanding that is what's going to separate yourself from others and really become that best version.
I'm trying to think in my mind. younger adults and you are communicating with them, how do you actually get them to believe you? Because I feel like sometimes when I'm
Yeah.
saying all these things, maybe it's the way we act and the way we show up in society. I don't think they believe us. Like
Yeah.
they think that they're saying it, it's nice to hear, but they don't really believe that.
So, me being 22 years old, I'm able to connect with them because of my age. So they're not looking at me as a parent or a teacher. They're looking at me as like that positive influence and coach in their life, where I always say is I'm young, relatable, relevant. So I understand what they are going through because I was in high school 4 years ago. I was in middle school 7 years ago. So that's what allows me to connect with them not only on my side, but also for them to open up and really believe in, what I'm teaching them, what I'm coaching them through, and tying in how I used to be in my life with the lack of motivation, the communication skills a little bit, the positivity, making wrong decisions, hanging on the wrong people, tying that back into saying, I have been there, but this is what I have done to pull myself out of that, to see that progress. And I'm always working in these different areas as well. So that's, I would say, my age where it comes into play. And that's why the youth that I work with really believes what I'm saying because they understand, because they don't look at me as, like I said, that parent or teacher of theirs.
You are truly bridging the gap, like you had mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, between the parents and what you're talking about. So let's talk a little bit about your personal experience.
Yeah.
When I say that, take us to Caden's brain journey and have you felt either in the past when you were younger or now this pressure to be a certain way? Now you are running your own business, like
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. How do you feel? Is there pressure there?
So I would say, thinking back to from eighth grade throughout high school and my freshman year of college, so those handful of years, I never got in serious trouble or anything like that, but it was always the little things that I didn't have control over my life. I wasn't investing in myself by making me better. I wasn't committing to growing every single day. So what kind of the lack was the time management. I had no control over my life. I was procrastinating things that had to get done. And throughout my day through school and sports, I wasn't organized. That was just one area. Also, I was hanging on the wrong crowd, which led me to make poor decisions in school, through sports, at home. I would say, my motivation wasn't always there, my that drive to become better. And it took that gap on me, and I saw who I was becoming and the path that I was going down. And one day, this was about 3 months into college, so my freshman year of college, I came home for the first time about Thanksgiving, and my mom and dad pretty much they looked at me and said, something's off. Like, you don't look good at all. Something has changed. And that was about 2.5, 3 month gap that they didn't see me. So me hearing that, it like kind of sparked something in me saying, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I am or wanting to become, and this is not the life that I want to live. So I remember going up in my room later that night and looking in the mirror. And that's when I had that first truthful conversation with myself and saw what they saw. And I saw where I didn't have control over my life through the time management, the organization, procrastination. I was making poor decisions. I didn't have motivation. So those areas were missing. And that was the moment that kind of changed everything for me moving forward.
Oh, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And to have that like safe space and your parents reflecting that on you and you actually taking that reflection and then creating such change that is positive in your personal life, but also
Yeah.
in so many other young lives. Going back to your experience as somebody who works closely with ages 8 to 18, what are some of the impacts that you might be noticing in the clients that you coach and help when it comes to mental health and well-being and this pressure to be perfect? Their lives are almost like live stream for very long since maybe the time they were born, they're on social media. Social media is entering way early. So I feel all of these like externalized pressures that are there that I then
Yeah.
internalize. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say, that where that perfectionism mindset really comes in within our youth, ages 18 and under, is it starts with comparing themselves to others, to what they see on social media, to what they hear in a conversation. You got to think about it. Like, people are only posting out or talking about in a conversation their happiness, their wins, their success. So hearing that constantly really gets them to say, well, I'm going through like many different things. Why don't I have this win? Why do I have this happiness? Why don't I see that success? Well, that's not reality. Nobody's going to be talking about their failures, mistakes, the tough times that they're going through. No one's going to be posting those things. So that's where, the perfectionism mindset comes in from, and really that root starts to, sprout a little bit, is they hear the perfection, the wins, the happiness, and they look at their life and they say, well, why does my life not look like that? So I tie in, an Apple analogy through the one-on-ones, workshops, and assemblies, where it's a picture of a mirror, and through the mirror, it's shiny, round, perfect. But on the other side, it's rotten, cut up, and bruised. So it's only what you're seeing is like that happiness, perfection, and all of that stuff. But on the other side is what you don't see, what they're actually going through in their life. And then I tie that into how they see themselves. So, every morning when they wake up and look in the mirror, are they happy with the person they're becoming? Are they proud of that life that they're creating? Because if they're always viewing themselves as rotten, cut up, and bruised, the one side of the apple, but they're not viewing themselves as, peaceful, happy, proud of who they are, it's just going to take it down and could affect many different aspects of their life.
I've never heard that analogy before, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting, I must say.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing that with us. What can we do better? I feel like where I am at in my circle, and as I'm trying to understand what perfectionism does to us in a variety of ways, you are working with these individuals every day.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to find words, phrases, things that maybe we can do. Because I almost, again, to the earlier point, was like, I have trouble making this belief that are they actually believing what I'm saying? Because I find my older daughter being really hard on herself already. She's 8.5.
Yeah, so I would say the one thing we could really do, I would say the social media is like a big thing that is playing a part in that. And like you mentioned earlier, trying to not let them on it as early, because I see kids as young as 9, 10, 11 years old that have maybe phones, or maybe if they don't have a phone, they're using someone else's or have their own social media account. And that's where a lot of these different things come in from, where it's distracts them, or it's a lack of motivation, and what they're seeing, can affect their mindset as they're growing up and developing, can lead to a lot of negativity. And that's another big aspect that I focus on, is the positive self-talk. So, I would say the root cause is social media, because it affects every aspect, their confidence. They compare themselves, that leads them to feel negativity, distracts them, where, they don't manage their day, they procrastinate things. So all these different areas, I would say, leads to them wanting to be perfect because what they see on social media, and understand they have to understand that it's not reality. And it, like I said, is, what I talk about is creating a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect of everything, where your lack of confidence can affect your motivation, which could affect your positive self-talk, where you compare yourself to others. And then that translates into relationships and friendships within family, friends, at school, with their grades, how they're performing in activities and sports. So it's that negative ripple effect. And I really do believe it starts with social media. So if you're someone that's watching this, look at, one, maybe if your son or daughter is using social media, what they're consuming on there, because you can use social media in a good way, but a lot of it is negative and will affect a lot of different areas, starting with that view that life has to be perfect.
I recently read Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, which is a remarkable book in terms of just opening your eyes to the many
Yeah.
facets of parenting and childhood and all the things that are going through it. The question I get asked quite frequently when moms are talking among themselves that, we're not going to let them on social media, and I'm trying very hard to delay it as much as I can. But
Yeah.
what all the moms are talking about is the lack of communication, like that their child will be singled out and left out if they're not using social media. And it's
Yeah.
not as much as like not just scroll, but also communicating with each other. It's like they're going to be the odd one out. How
Yeah.
do you like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, so there's definitely different ways to communicate. Like, I know having text messages, why don't you just get their number and create a group chat where you could still communicate back and forth and make that happen? Or, I remember when I was a little younger, before social media really took over, I was like the last kind of age group, I feel like, being 22, where I would have my mom get in contact with their parents. So to hang out, say, hey, When is he available? When is she available? Things like that. So, that the Snapchat, the Instagram, the TikTok, those are where a lot of the social media things could be more negative. But I feel like they can really still communicate through text message. And I know there's a few different apps where you can just get their number, a username, and just have that conversation via text or something like that versus scrolling on social media and things like that.
Hayden, that was really helpful to know. I think my other concern is also, which I get asked and we talk about it in, again, our mom circles, is the screens that once you get hold of handheld devices, trying to create safety around that. And I know that there are now, thankfully, there are some apps and things that people can use, these actual devices, not apps, that don't have access to all this other connection, and you can create that. So having that space can definitely be a way to shield ourselves from the negative impact that social media brings our way.
Yep.
When you go to these assemblies, what do you do at the school assemblies?
We go in with my team, and I have a coaching program of people I've gotten double certified like myself, and then also a future leaders program of kids that I've been working with for 2 to 3 years now through one-on-ones that have really leveled up and have grown in many aspects that are now helping me lead at these schools. So we go in and it's very high energy, motivational, inspiring, but also a lot of learning, very interactive as well, where we get these kids involved and having that drive to want to better themselves. So the first topic we start off with is investing in yourself is cool. So hanging around the right friends, taking control of your day, putting effort towards things, growing your communication and introduce yourself, wanting to build friendships. That's one area. But then I talk about investing in yourself. So it's cool, but also what they think is lame. Lame is hanging around the wrong friends, not managing your day, making poor decisions, not doing anything to better yourself, not treating others with respect. So I start off with that, and then I get into many different topics from not comparing yourself, communication, knowing your value, the positive self-talk, confidence in your life, things like that.
They're definitely high energy videos that I've caught online. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to check them out, please do follow Caden on Instagram. It's really wonderful and remarkable to see all the children and young adults having such a great time. Caden, what advice would you give to parents as we wrap up our conversation today? Because my audience is primarily parents and
Yeah.
adults and uncles and aunts and
Yep.
community members. What can we do better to foster more accepting and wholesome view of our young adults that is not leaning towards those negative aspects of perfectionism?
So I would say starting off by trying to teach them those basic skills, I think maybe aren't taught through school or their friends or, definitely not social media. So the simple things, the communication and starting them when they're young. And if they are a little older, that's still okay, but maybe saying it more in an advanced way, but the communication. So teaching them how to start, expand, and end a conversation. Maybe it's more on the goal setting side of things. Maybe have weekly meetings with them where you sit down with your son or daughter and talk about some things they want to achieve and what they're going through. So it really gets them to open up to you and feel that trust built in. Maybe if it's not there, what you could do to build that trust, but also if it is there, how you can grow it even more. So I believe that in order to achieve goals and dreams and become that best version of yourself, it's the small little things that do matter. Being more positive, growing your communication skills, starting to hang around better friends, little things like that is where you could start putting into them at a younger age, and as they continue to grow older, so they start to mature and see, what you're talking about is really true and good stuff as well. And then if they are wanting to get in contact with me, or if you want to get in contact with me as well, you could reach out to me on Instagram, Vitt Factor right here, or my website is vittfactor.com, and would be sure and happy to meet with your son or daughter, or maybe possibly come into their school in their future.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing your insights with us, Caden.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
This episode is part of a special series in my budding book project on unmasking perfectionism. You might believe you don't have the time or energy to focus on yourself, but this is exactly the right time to get serious about your well-being. You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here to help. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to take the next step, head over to dramneshabir.com, where you'll find free resources you can access right away. The website link is below. Let's get started on your path to thriving. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Just a quick reminder, while I am a physician, I'm not your physician, and nothing in this podcast is medical advice, or any kind of professional advice. Everything shared here is based on my personal experiences, and the views expressed are entirely my own. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and share the show with anyone who might need a little inspiration to redefine their own version of success. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep reimagining success one small step at a time.